Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be getting back into the Q&A session that we started a little bit ago, just continuing on where we left off. So we'll get into the next one. It's going to be Matt writes in Glock Gen 3 versus Gen 4. Okay, so Gen 3 versus Gen 4, at this point I would go and say it really doesn't matter in terms of function, in terms of form, whichever one fits you better. Now some folks don't like the grip texture on the Gen 4. I like it, but I tend to like a more aggressive grip. Also some folks, their hands just don't fit right on the Gen 3, so the Gen 4 will give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of enlarging or reducing the size of the grip. So whichever you really prefer at this point. Of course, the spring system's a little bit different on some of the Gen 4s. It's supposed to give you a little bit more life, a little less recoil. I haven't really noticed that in terms of a major difference, but both of them certainly work, and both work well. Of course, the 9mm Glocks had some problems in the beginning, but they seem to work those out. So at this point, whichever one tickles your fancy, really. Sam wrote in, what's the firearm coming out soon that you're most excited about? So not really a particular one that's coming out as I'm recording this anyway. It's January 2016. I don't know when I'm going to release these videos. I'll release them slowly over time, I suppose, so it's not just a Q&A type of channel. But coming out that I know of, probably the Caink TP9SF, the version that doesn't have the decocker. Now, as in the essay video, I'll say it again, never had an issue with the decocker, never seen it to be a problem. However, really, I don't need it, personally, my personal opinion. So to have that not there and have the folks who really kind of complain about that, which is fine if that's you, it's fine that you complain about it, but that really is the big knock against the gun. Folks don't ever say, you know, the triggers are bad, they're not reliable, they're not accurate. They just say they don't like the decocker. So I think when that comes in, it really is going to help Caink out, because every single Caink I've touched here on the channel, whether it be a TriStar or a Century imported gun, either way, they've all been flawless in terms of function. So that's something I really like, especially at the price point these guns are coming in. So that one, the SF model, is definitely one I'm looking forward to for sure. David writes in, do you think it's impractical, parentheses, takes too much time during a home defense scenario? And then reading down. It's a long question, guys. He wrote, okay, so he's talking about body armor and putting it on. And then he says, at what point do you think a defense-oriented gun owner should be thinking about armor? So when it's in your budget, it definitely wouldn't be the thing that I would be most concerned about. If you guys watched my home defense AR video, I sort of get into that a little bit. But if it's in your budget and within your physical capabilities, like I talked about in the previous Q&A video, to actually wear armor and still fight with it, by all means, and you have the budget and everything else taken care of, definitely look into it, because it could save your life. You don't know, but it might. So that alone sort of is worth it. Again, if it's within your budget and skill set and health, to be able to do that. Next up, Kevin writes in, what is your carry ammo? Ammo of choice, Mr. G. That's me. So it just depends. Most of the guns I carry, occasionally I carry some 380s or 38 specials, but most of them are going to be 9mm. So in that caliber, I almost always, actually always, there's no exception to this now that I think about it, either use 124 grain gold dot or 124 grain HST standard pressure. Both of those are very proven rounds, in my opinion. One day I should do a whole video on this plus P versus non plus P. In my opinion, there's really no point to plus P ammo. I get the point behind it. However, for me, I'd rather have faster follow-up shots, which is what's always going to be most important with pistols, because they're tremendously underpowered anyway. So that's my personal opinion. That's what I use, HST or gold dot, 124 grain. Either round in any of the grain variants that they make should do pretty well, because they tend to make pretty good stuff. Nolan writes, does non-AP steel core ammunition 7.6 M855 actually beat up steel targets, or is that a range myth? Okay, so this is actually an interesting question. So the steel core itself, in my opinion, shooting thousands and thousands of rounds every year at steel, not really a huge factor. It's always going to be speed. Not always. More likely than not going to be speed. So for instance, 7.6 tends to go faster than 8.55. 7.6 beats up steel more than 8.55. A lot of people have reported, myself as well have experienced, that a lot of times 183 will do more damage on steel than 8.55 just because it's a faster round. So it tends to be, you know, what is actually going to hit it with the most velocity does it. Of course, projectile substance does matter, but velocity seems to be the killer for armor as well as steel. So I would say the velocity matters much more than the actual steel itself, if you will. Scrolling down here, James writes in, when I watch the guys like you, I wonder what's your personal go-to-war kit, for lack of a better term. So what would Mr. Guns and Gear kit up with for a serious situation? I guess the list would be long, but it would, me personally, if my wife was not going to be involved, it would be an AK-74, either an SGL-31 or SLR-104 with mil-spec mags, you know, circle 10s or something like that. Some 7N6. I'd probably put an aim point on there with the RS side mount and probably a RS light mount as well on there. Of course, an Ultimac would be just fine as well. Either way, I'd use a flash hider on there rather than a brakes. So either the Krebs or the Manticore Eclipse or the Krebs 4-prong definitely be a good way to go for it. Some body armor with some ceramic plates. I do have ceramic plates. If you don't have ceramic, steel would be fine. Probably the actual armor I'd wear would be the Operators, AWS Operator's Choice plate carrier, I believe it's called. Some of that with, you know, a few mag pouches on there for some extra ammo. Additionally, with me would probably be either a Glock 34 or a Glock 17L. Excellent firearms. I shoot them extremely well, and they're very reliable. So that's probably what it would be, but who knows. Also some Electronic Gear Pro. Put that out there. Michael writes in, I'd ask a question, but you'd probably just respond with a generic one-word answer like sure or yeah. Sure. Next up, Eldude, E-L-D-U-D-E, however you say that. Eldude writes, best AK dust cover rail that will hold 0. Okay, so the answer for that, at least in my experience, the best, if that's what we're talking about, not good, but the best, has been either the Krebs top covers that are fitted and fitted in a way that actually lock into place and put cross tension on there, or additionally the Beryl, the Polish Beryl top cover rail. Very, very durable systems, and they actually work on similar principles to make them work. So those would be the best in my opinion. There are others that are okay and functional, but that would be the best in my opinion. Richard writes in, are you going to be doing reviews on other gear such as knives, bags, etc. in the future? Yes, is the answer. I've already done bag reviews. That will continue to happen. Knives. So here's the thing, right? So I don't want to say this in an arrogant way, but I tend to think that I'm knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. I don't want to say an expert, but very knowledgeable when it comes to firearms, employing them, how they function, things like that. With knives, I use them. I have a lot of nice ones. I don't know that I'm an expert, but I suppose that could be sort of the thing in the video where I learn along with you guys. But I have, like I said, a lot of really nice ones. I carry knives all the time. I use knives all the time, just like many of you. So I plan on reviewing them. I just don't want it to come off as stupid, if you will. But we'll probably do that. We'll take a look at it. I'll probably sample that over on the B channel and get some feedback and then bring it over here once I figure it all out. Russell writes, what's your favorite color? Don't really have one per se. I kind of like green, like a forest type of green, but I also like red, so I kind of go back and forth. Either one works for me. Angel or Angel writes in, if you could choose the military's new next handgun, which would you pick and why? Okay, I would pick the Glock 17. Reason is it's a fantastic, reliable gun that's simple. The maintenance is so simple that the military may actually do it. I.e., they might replace springs, they might replace locking blocks, stuff like that, stuff that they don't do now, which is one of the primary reasons that the M9 doesn't work well in the military, in my opinion. That said, I would not replace the M9. I know that's sort of a controversial statement, but firearms are a very minimal part of a soldier's basic loadout. In fact, most soldiers don't actually carry them. They're Marines, airmen, sailors, etc. It goes for all of them. And the M9 is a perfectly serviceable weapon if you maintain it properly and are, you know, if it fits your hand, which for most folks it does. For some it doesn't, of course, but in the things that the military has to spend money on, it's a very low priority in my opinion. And the M9 works fine. Of course, if you could go with the M9A1 like the Marine Corps does to add the light laser capability, I'd probably go that route. But realistically, not a big deal either way. But by all means, if the military switched to a Glock 17, that'd be great. Great news for everybody all the way around, particularly the guys. who have to employ them. Logan writes in, I think you should comment your opinion on the Texas open carry legislation and whether it's a viable option for other states to look into. So, okay, I will comment on it if you'd like. First off, I think the Constitution is the only carry permit we need. So open carry laws, concealed carry laws, I think they're all absurd and they shouldn't exist. So open carry, cool. Anybody, however you want to carry, whatever. If you want to carry a 240, walk into Walmart. I don't care. I think that's perfectly fine. So there's my comment on that, I guess you could say. Next question is from Daniel. It says, do you have a dedicated mailing address for viewers to send stuff? I have a box full of parts I will never use and can't sell. Okay, so I get this question a lot, which is a really good problem to have. You guys always want to send me stuff, whether it be ammo, gear, guns, whatever the case may be, to review. So I totally appreciate it. I do. I really do. The reality is, guys, that I can't get to everything I want to get to, you know, that I choose to review. Never mind stuff that you guys want to see me review by sending me stuff. Of course, there's also legal issues with firearms and other things like that. That said, of course, I have a real job, so that's kind of time consuming, and I get to this as I can. And holding stuff for people, I mean, sometimes I have stuff in for literally years before I do a review. The Bushnell AR optics scope was a good example of that. I had that for like 3 years before I did the review, and that's not uncommon. So number one, I like to put a lot of rounds through stuff, get a lot of experience with it. And number two, sometimes it just takes me a while to get to them, so I don't accept things from viewers. I just can't do it with the amount of stuff I have to do and the amount of time I have to do it. So I appreciate it. I truly do. I appreciate the support, but we cannot do that here. It just doesn't work out. Andrew writes in, what does Mrs. Guns and Gear usually carry for CCW, and why so little love for 22 LR guns? Okay, good question. On both fronts, you're being greedy with two, but I will answer two, and this will be the last one in this video. So Mrs. Guns and Gear carries a M&P 9. We've did a review on that gun. Excellent gun. It works flawlessly. She likes it. For her, she shoots it well, and clearly it's a reliable and proven gun. So she carries an M&P 9. And the second question was, why no love for the 22 LR? So a couple reasons for that. Number one, I do have 22s. I reviewed a couple of them, the Taurus PT22 and the M&P 1522 we have reviewed here. But I really almost never shoot 22s. The only reason I really ever shoot 22s is when I'm with family members or friends that want to learn how to shoot and stuff like that, and then I bring them out. Other than that, it's just not something I really shoot. It's just not. So there's nothing against 22 at all by any means, but it's just not something that typically I reach for when I go to the range. So there's no conspiracy or anything like that. I just generally don't shoot it. And that's why you don't see them here often on the channel. But that's about it, guys. We're going to cut it off there for time's sake. And of course, we'll continue on here with these questions. A few more videos getting out of this batch of questions before we move on and post another question down the road for months from now. But what we're going to do is wrap it up. But thanks again for watching, guys. I always appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't done so, go ahead and please do so. And we hope to see you guys in the next video.